Hello and welcome back to another LEGO Star Wars mock video. I have not posted for a while as I have tried a new technique of stop motion to show the construction of the model. Whilst I prefer the end result, it took much longer than I expected. It's also pretty rough as I haven't done this before, but I hope you enjoy it. In this episode I build the best looking X-Wing mock I've been able to find. It is minifigure size and designed by Jerek, a really talented designer. Stay tuned for a detailed review after the time lapse. Enjoy. Okay, finally here is the finished build and it looks outstanding. This took much longer to shoot than I expected, and whilst I really enjoyed it, I think I will save it for special builds. The designer is Jerek and I have a link in the description to the mock. It consists of 1,337 parts, and it is hard to say how long it took to build given the stop motion obviously took much longer, but I'd say you could probably do it in a few hours. I think it cost about 350 Australian dollars. This is actually the updated version of Jerek's X-Wing, and it's definitely an improvement. I originally started to build the older version, and I have to say this build has some really noticeable upgrades. For one, the joining of the angle planes along the front of the X-Wing are definitely more solid and less fiddly. It is still a fairly technical and tricky build. I found there were a number of steps where a few of the parts just broke free as I was trying to join components. It's just a matter of trial and error and finding the right pieces to support as you rebuild and try again. But I found this challenge to be quite enjoyable. Another thing to note is this model comes in 4 colour variants: blue, clean, dirty and white. Originally I'd purchased the dirty theme, grey and red, as on Rebrickable this is what it actually defaulted to. The instructions are now only available on BrickVault, by the way, and you can find this in the description. Now the colour is certainly a personal preference, but in this case I decided to repurchase some of the parts for the clean white look. As much as I like a worn, aged effect, I just felt that grey has become a very common colour with Star Wars builds, such as my AT-AT, AT-ST, Snowspeeder, and even though the Y-Wing and the Millennium Falcon have a bit of additional colour, they are predominantly grey. So I just wanted to break up the scheme a little, and the white and bright red does look quite striking in this build. This is a minifigure scaled model. I've chosen this over the UCS as I really do like to display my models with the figures piloting the vehicles. I also think many mocks simply look better than the original LEGO designs, and even in this case I do feel this is a nicer, more refined design. There are some really nice touches in this build. The mechanism to open the wings is really clever. Just by turning this very small and barely noticeable wheel, the operation is smooth and easy. Do note, however, that if you do get this wrong from the very start, you'll have some serious issues. So I would always check this mechanism throughout the build to make sure nothing had jammed or had become misaligned. Incredibly, you do not even notice the mechanism here, unlike the UCS model. Jarek has designed a really clever system that I believe surpasses that of the original version. An outstanding effort. You have a really nicely detailed interior, with control panels, steering column and targeting system. One thing to note is initially my minifigure did not fit in the cockpit. I had to actually remove this 4x4 tile to gain some additional height for the windscreen to close. And even then it's a tight fit. I'm not sure if the helmet on this minifigure is particularly bulky, but just bear that in mind. The angles in the front and the way they have been achieved are incredible, and you can only appreciate how this has been accomplished by actually building it. Some really great and advanced techniques are used here. The stand displays the model really nicely and is pretty solid. So is this a model that can be played with? Well, even though there are improvements that have made this model a little more stable, I just think there are too many delicate joints for this to be a playable build. You can certainly handle it with some confidence, but that is only for showcase purposes. There are sections of this model that could easily be undone internally and would require quite a bit of disassembly and rebuilding to get the detached parts and repair them. Externally, there are parts that are only just hanging on by a single stud and can easily be displaced or fall off when handling. For example, these front fins are quite loose, and the nose is only held on by a couple of ball joints, so it is really easy to bend it out of alignment. Underneath, many of these tiles are only just hanging on by one stud, and all of these tiles are really easy to displace, move and fall off. Even during the building stage, whilst putting some of these pieces together, parts of these wings would just fall off completely. So whilst the upgraded design has made the assembly of the model a little easier, it still does not make it a playable vehicle, which is fine by me. As far as accuracy goes, I think this is the best I've seen. Obviously due to the scale, there are limitations, but Jarek has done an outstanding job with detailing on a model this size. Looking at some of the original footage, you can see that the shape is really spot on. The whole front section is shaped perfectly. Some really great techniques were used to achieve this. The cockpit has a lot of nice detailing and gives a feeling of being a really cramped and crowded space, much like you see from the internal shots of the movies. The wings are really well done, and the shape and the scale are pretty much perfect, and of course you have the ability to open and close them depending on your preference. Even the panelling and the engine details on the inside of the wing has some level of accuracy. Really amazing design. Underneath you have the blaster. A front leg is extendable. And even the two rear legs can be accessed by opening these panels. Now I did have an issue with these legs supporting the weight of the model, but with a bit of tweaking I'm sure it can be done. It is not an issue for me, as I will be displaying it on the stand. The guns have gone through quite a big design change in this version, and I think it is for the better, as they look more authentic. The front intakes are well done, and the rear engines look great, with a clever use of various hubs and cylinders. The detailing along the top is excellent, some subtle detailing here, and of course a space for an R2 unit. The red panelling on the wings has been achieved without the use of stickers. Very clever, and I'm a big fan of not having to use adhesive decals. The back of the X-Wing utilises some really clever techniques to achieve a much better and more accurate result than the LEGO UCS model. It's not a great shot, but you can see that even the interior part of the rear section is rounded. Whereas the UCS simply squares this off, this MOC manages to reflect the shape. Though it does come at a cost of stability, I do prefer the accuracy. In conclusion, I think this is a really accurate and outstanding X-Wing MOC, and in my opinion even more so than the larger original LEGO UCS. So congratulations to Jarak for designing such a clever and pretty advanced MOC. As far as minifigure scaled X-Wings go, I really think this is one of the best and I highly recommend it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've included a link to the MOC in the description. If you are new to MOCs and want to get into them, I have a couple of videos that introduce you to this wonderful hobby. Stay tuned for more MOC time lapses and reviews soon. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Bye for now.